friends, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me again this week. I am so excited to have y'all here, and I just want you to know I'm having a blast. I am loving all this holiday preparation. I'm loving creating all these fun holiday DIYs and hoping that as I'm creating them, I'm inspiring you with some of these fun ideas because I'm really having a blast, and I hope I can share that with y'all in these videos. So anyway, today we are going to be working in the studio again. We're going to be whipping up a couple of really cute DIY home decor pieces that I think you guys are really going to enjoy. These ones are just a little bit harder than some of the things that we've done in the past, but not like unattainable. So I think that you guys can do this. I think you're going to enjoy these because I've loved these, and I can hardly wait to, get the whole house decorated and get them displayed everywhere. So without further ado, let's head on into the studio and start doing some Christmas crafting.
For our first project today, y'all, this is going to be somewhat of a fun one. We are going to make some cute vintage stockings that we're going to turn into tree ornaments. So you will need some fabric, your pattern, and I will have this pattern linked in the description box for y'all as a free download. You'll need some scissors, a pin, and sewing machine. And if you don't have a sewing machine, you can hand sew these, or you can also use fabric glue to attach all of your pieces together. So the first step we're going to do here is, of course, trace our pattern out onto the fabric, and once that is done, we will cut it out. And I folded my fabric into fourths here because I want to make several of these. So I folded the fabric so that I could cut 4 at a time. Excuse me, if that makes sense. So once I get the pattern drawn on, I am going to pin my fabric pieces together to keep them all in place as I cut them out. So as I mentioned here, I am just pinning my fabric to hold everything in place as I cut these because I'm cutting multiples at a time, so I don't want my fabric sliding all around as I cut these. So it's probably best to just pin them if you want to cut a whole bunch at one time. So then I will just proceed to cut them all out, and then we'll move on to our next step. Alright y'all, so after we finish cutting these out, you're going to want to iron them just to get them all flat and get them wrinkle free. Then we are going to stitch these all the way down the sides, except you want to leave this top portion open because that's where we're going to stuff these. And I am sewing these with right sides out because I wanted to have frayed edges. And I also used some just fun different stitches on these rather than a straight. I did use a straight stitch on a couple, but then I thought it would be fun to use some fun stitches just to give these a little extra pizzazz. Then I'm going to go ahead and fray out all of my edges, and the way I'm doing this is I'm just going to stuff a dowel rod inside of this and kind of hold the edges tight against that, and then just take my scissors over these edges all the way around until I get that frayed look, and then I will pull out all the extra strings, and whatever strings I couldn't pull, I will cut. And I do want to mention, when you're doing your fraying, be really careful not to go too far in or you'll start cutting your stitching. So now I'm going to just kind of distress these a little bit. So I'm using a little bit of just, this is just folk art craft paint, and I'm using a very, very light amount of paint on a dry brush, and I'm just going to go over these a little bit to just kind of distress them and make them look a little more coffee stained without actually coffee staining them, because to be honest, I didn't think about that whole coffee stain until I was halfway into this. And so I went ahead and just made my own faux coffee stain. Some of these I did get a little heavy-handed on, but that's okay because they look really cute in the end. Now we are going to go ahead and start stuffing these, and I did stuff mine pretty tight. I wanted a pretty firm stocking at the end after stuffing. So I'm just going to stuff these with some, I am just using fiber fill, and then I use a dowel to kind of push it down in there and get it really tight and firm. So you do want to leave a little extra space at the top of your stocking, so don't fill it all the way to the very top, because we're going to turn down that top edge to make a nice clean edge. So here's what they look like, all stuffed full, and now we get to move on to the fun part. We are going to embellish these. So here I am just turning that down, as I mentioned, to make a nice clean top so that we don't have any of those frayed edges showing. And I'm just going to stuff these with some fun little greenery picks that I found on Amazon, and I will have all of these picks linked in the description box for y'all. So I finished stuffing this with everything that I decided I wanted to put on the very inside of my stocking, but of course we're not done. We have to embellish the outside as well. So I'm just making a simple little bow here, and this is just some homespun fabric that I got at Hobby Lobby that I kind of just I ripped this fabric because I like the frayed rough edges. And I'm just going to attach this to the outside of my stocking with hot glue. But if you don't have hot glue, you could use super glue, or fabric glue will work just fine. Then I'm going to go ahead and cut my bow at a little bit of an angle. And about this time is when I realized that I completely forgot to put the hanger on my stocking. So I'm going to add that hanger to the stocking now, and I'm just hanging it off to the side so that when we, hang our stockings from the tree, they kind of hang at a fun little angle. You could hang them from the back too, but I just like how when you hang it from the side, it angles the stocking just a little bit. And then I'm just going to go ahead and add some berries, and we'll add a few more embellishments to this one, and just kind of have fun and go with your gut, do what feels right, stop when you feel like it's enough, or keep going if you want more. That's just kind of the fun part of embellishing. You can go as much as you want or as little as you want. I decided that this stocking needed a little bit more sparkle, so I'm going to add these gold pith berries, and I'm just going to curl them by wrapping them around my dowel, and then I'll put just a little dab of glue on them and stuff it kind of on the inside between the cedar branches there. And then I kind of just play with it and move it around a little bit until I get it just where I like it. And then I think we will call, oh, nope, it is not done. We are gonna add a bell to this. So I'm just tying some jute through this bell, and I'm just making a simple little bow, and then we'll go ahead and glue our bell on, and then we will call this stocking all done. And here are the ones that I finished today, all complete. And as you can see, I just did a little bit of different embellishing on each and every one of them to give them their own little personality, their own character, and their own style. Okay, y'all, are you ready for this? we are going to create a snowman here. We're going to create like a Frosty the little Snowman Fellow out of fabric, and this pattern was a little bit tricky for me. So I did have a pattern that I purchased off of Etsy, but it was way too small, so I decided to create my own pattern. So what I did was I cut my circles from a plate charger, a dinner plate, and then a salad plate to get my 3 different sizes. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut about 1/8 of an inch off the bottom to make a flat section that will be how we attach our snowman pieces together. Then we will also cut some notches out, and the reason we cut these triangular notches out is to give us more of a round shape once they're stuffed. Now you do not have to do this part at all. You can leave it completely just totally round and just stuff it really tight, and you'll still get a nice, a full round snowball looking shape. So I went ahead and did this to all 3 pieces, and y'all, I am going to put the link for this free downloadable pattern in the description box, and hopefully the pattern makes perfectly good sense to y'all once it's done. Now we are going to move on to cutting out our hat, and we are going to make a really cute top hat for our little Santa. So we've got this round 4.5 inch circle, and I am cutting this out of like just a faux pleather. I think that's what you call this stuff. It's kind of a leathery feel. And this is the brim of our hat, and I'm also going to cut this out. And I'll also have this whole pattern will be in the description box for y'all. So we are only going to cut out the outer, no, I'm sorry, we cut out this whole thing, but to cut the center part, I just kind of fold it and make a slit in this so that we can cut our inner circle out without, making too much of a mess. So you can see here, I just folded it, made the slit, and then I will just go in and cut that inner circle out. And for the brim part, you do need to cut 2 of these. So I pinned my pieces together to keep them in place as I was cutting so that they would both be perfectly matched up to one another. Alright, now we are going to cut out our hat sides, and you need to cut this on the fold. It is very, very important that you cut this on the folded side of your fabric so that we can we're going to, when we open this, it's going to be like a tube. I'm not sure how I had a little extra left there, but I'm just going to trim this off, and then I remove the pattern and open it up, and you can see why it's very important here to cut that on the fold. Then we will sew just that one side together. And when it's sewn together, it'll resemble like a tube. Then we sew the top part of our hat on, and that will become the top part of our top hat. All right, y'all, so now I've got all of our pattern pieces laid out on all my fabric. And for the Snowman body, I'm just using this really soft, like velvety type fabric that I got at Joann Fabrics. And for his little mittens, I just cut them out on some cute little gingham, black and white gingham fabric. So now we have everything cut out of our fabric, and I'm just checking to make sure that, all of our pieces are kind of, I have them all cut out and I have the right amount of everything. For the Snowman body, you do need to make sure that you cut out 2 of each shape or each size. And then we are going to go ahead and start sewing now, or gluing. If you're not a sewer and you're just gluing, you glue all of these pieces together the exact same way as we would sew them. So now we're going to take one section of our Snowman body, and we're going to glue those little slits together or sew them together. And we're just going to start from the very top part right there and then go all the way to the end. And we're going to do this to all the pieces of our snowman. Then we will sew the arm together, but you're only going to sew on this one edge right here because you need to leave the ends open so we can stuff it later. The same with the mittens, you just sew all the way around and leave this bottom part open so that we can stuff these again. So we can stuff them later. For the brim of our hat, we are only sewing or gluing around the very outer edge. Make sure you leave that inner edge open because that's very important for attaching this to our hat later on. And for the sides, we only sew that one edge. Now here's what it looks like after I've sewn all of our little notches together. And you have that flat that flat part that we cut, remember when we made our pattern and we cut that flat part off? That flat part is going to be the bottom part of this, and that's important. You want to remember that that's the bottom. And so you need to leave that part open when you're sewing your body pieces together so that we can stuff it later. And also something to remember is when you're sewing these together or gluing them together, make sure that you have right sides together so that when we go to turn it, everything is the way it's supposed to be, so that you have your right sides out when we go to turn this. So now I'm just going to pin everything in place so that when I take it to the sewing machine, nothing moves around on me. And again, I left that opening right there because that's going to be how we stuff it. And then we're just going to go sew all the way around this entire circumference of this body piece. And we're going to do that for all of our pieces. And again, I'm going to sew this mitten. We're just going to sew this on the outer edges and leave that bottom open so we can stuff this. I'm going to do the same thing with the hat brim. Again, just sew that outer edge only. And we need to leave that center part. And then on this one, we'll sew just that one edge and leave your two ends open as well. And remember, if you're gluing, you glue this the exact same way as that you would sew it. Alrighty guys, are you still with me? Now that we have all of our pieces sewn together, I am going to cut some notches out of this snowman brim just so when we go to flip it right sides out, it lays nice and flat and smooth for us. Now that I have our hat brim turned right sides out, I'm just kind of use my finger to kind of finger press everything nice and smooth and flat. And then for the sides of our hat, I am going to trim off all of our excess with some pinking shears just to get rid of some of the extra bulk and also keep this from fraying. Not that this fabric really would fray, because I don't think it would. Now we are going to start assembling our cute little top hat, and here we are going to sew our circle to our tube, and you want to make sure that you have right sides together when you are pinning this in place. So you're just going to pin the whole thing, and then we are just going to sew or glue all the way around that outer edge. And I am sewing everything at a 1/8 inch seam allowance. So if you're gluing, try to keep things at a 1/8 inch as well. If you get too aggressive with your seams when you're a gluer, you might end up with a way smaller end result than you wanted to. So just try to keep everything at 1/8 of an inch. Now that the top part is on, I'm going to flip this right sides out, and now we're going to start attaching the brim. And I'm not gonna lie, y'all, this brim was fiddly and it gave me a lot of trouble. So I'm just pinning everything again, and remember, keep everything right sides together. So my advice, if you're a gluer, good for you, because that is the definite easiest way to attach this brim. If you're a sewer, be prepared to have your patience tried just a little bit. But I did it, y'all. I got it sewed together. It looks adorable. I really love it, and I'm glad I didn't give up. Okay, now we're going to move on to our arms. We're going to turn all of these pieces right side out as well. Turn your mittens right side out, and I used a crochet hook here to just kind of help push all of my seams out. And if you don't have a crochet hook, you can use like the end of a spoon or something, but don't use anything too sharp because it can just blow right through your seams. Now we are going to tuck those mittens inside one of our arms and tuck them in right sides together. I'm going to pin these in place, and y'all, I did not even try to sew this because this is such a small opening. So I did glue all of this together, and I just glued around the whole outside of that so that when we go to turn these, our mittens will be sewn in place and they'll have a nice clean seam. So now that I've gotten the mittens and the arms all sewn together, you can see here that I've got the mittens sewn on. I'm going to start stuffing these. And again, I stuffed these arms really, really tight because I wanted them to be very firm and hold their shape really, really well. So again, I stuffed them with a lot of fiberfill so that they were tight. But I did leave some room at the top so that we can turn down that and have a nice clean edge at the very top. And I'm going to glue that in place as well. And you can see how they look here. So now we'll go ahead and turn our snowman body, all of the pieces right side out on that as well so that we can get it stuffed. I know I'm throwing a whole lot out at y'all all at once, so I hope you're keeping up with me. I hope it's not too much, and I hope you're not getting overwhelmed, because I will be really honest, this pattern did overwhelm me a little bit, but my best advice is to just not give up and to stick with it, because in the end you'll be so happy that you did, because he turns out absolutely adorable. So now I'm just going to go to work stuffing all 3 parts of our snowman's body, and then to cinch them together, I'm just using a whip stitch here, and I did use jute because I wanted this to be really strong, and I felt like thread might not hold it as strong as I wanted it to. So I went ahead and whip stitched this, just go in and out, in and out, in and out, all the way around the circumference of it, and then when you get meat back up, you just tie it off. Just like that, and then tie a good secure knot in your jute to make sure that it doesn't come undone. Then we're going to add some buttons to our little snowman body, and again I just weaved some jute through these to make them look, you know, give them that sewn on look. And then I'm just going to hot glue these buttons to the snowman's body, and I'm gluing these ones to the middle section. I'm just using wooden buttons here, but you can use any kind of buttons that you would like. And these ones do go to the middle section of our snowman's body. And here I'm just going to go ahead and glue our arm pieces together, and then I'm going to attach the arms to our snowman body, and I am attaching these to the center piece of our snowman, but I don't attach them to the exact middle of the centerpiece, if that makes sense. I'm going to attach them just a little bit higher than middle to give them, you know, so it gives like a shoulder of swords. So I'm just going to hot glue those into place, and I do hot glue these in with my thumbs facing up, because if you want your snowman to be holding something, then it's more realistic if the thumbs are facing up. So that's just a small detail you might want to pay attention to. Now we are going to glue all of our snowman's body parts together. So we're going to start by adding some hot glue, and I used a pretty liberal amount of hot glue here, or you can use fabric glue too, or you know, any kind of good stronghold glue. Then I'm going to attach the head to his middle section. And after I got all of his pieces attached together, I decided that his body needed a 3rd button. So I do add another button to the top of the bottom section, if that makes sense. This little guy got a little bit confusing. Now it's time to attach the hat, and I did decide to this hat held its shape really well because of the type of fabric that I used here, but I decided to add a little bit of stuffing just to give it a little extra hold to keep that shape perfectly in place. And then I just hot glued his hat on. And oh, and I forgot to tell you guys, I did add some popcorn seeds to the very, very bottom section of our snowman to help him stand up better, to kind of keep him, you know, to make it heavy on the bottom. Then we add a scarf, and I'm not sure what happened to some of my footage on this, but I did cut some fringe at the bottom of the scarf, and then I added a couple of embellishments to his hat. Now I'm just going to make some eyes and a mouth, and I'm just using air dry clay here, and I just kind of form it into like little lumpies so that it kind of resembles coal. I let them sit and air dry for about 24 hours, and once they were completely set up, I painted them all black so that they would look very, very much like coal. Okay, Okay, y'all, we're gonna put our snowman on hold for just a few minutes because as I was making this snowman, I came up with this idea in the middle of everything. And you know how when your thoughts come up with something when you're creative, you just kind of have to go with it. So I set the snowman aside and we are going to make a cute Days Until Christmas sign. So I just had Michael cut out all these little pieces for me, and he cut out this out of very thin, like I think an 1/8 inch plywood or 1/4 inch plywood, no, 1/8 inch plywood, I think is what it is. And then he just cut it to, in the shape of like a little tag. Then he cut out all these little pieces for me because these are going to be our days, like our numbers for the days until Christmas. Then I cut out this vinyl on my cutter. I'm just going to attach it to some brown cardstock here. And when you are attaching vinyl to your cardstock, peel the transfer tape back very slowly because it does have a tendency to tear, and it did tear a little bit, but it wasn't anything super noticeable. All right, guys, I'm just going to embellish our tag just a little bit. I'm going to add some scrapbook paper to this just to give it a little extra something, elevate it a little bit so it's not just plain white. And I'm going to cut this out, and then I'm going to glue it onto our wooden tag with some just tacky glue. And I believe I just used that Aleene's tacky glue. I use this quite a bit. It works really well for gluing paper to wood, and I've never had my paper peel up ever. So I'm going to glue that on, and then I'm going to add our Days Until Christmas lettering to the very bottom of this. And then I do embellish that very top piece as well with some coordinating scrapbook paper. Then I add a washer to the top of this, just to give it that authentic tag look. Then I am going to add the vinyl cutouts, the numbers of our vinyl cutouts to all of our little wooden or number tags. This is our countdown tags. That's what we want to call these. I got that done. It took a little while. Then we have to have something to hold our little countdown tags. So I found this cute little burlap bag at Walmart, and I'm going to just embellish that a little bit. Then I add some nails to this board to hold our tags. And then I just decided we had to have a little bit more embellishing. So I just add a little greenery to the top of this with some berries and then some dangly bows. And this is done. It came out so cute. Can y'all guess what we are going to do with this? Okay, you guys, so I think this came out adorable, and you could just leave it as it is as a fun Days Until Christmas countdown sign, or we can give our Frosty a job and let him hold on to this for us. I think this just turned out so sweet.
Alrighty, friends, that was really fun. We had some challenges during our little Frosty the Snowman project today, but in the end, we got him together. He came out adorable, and I'm going to display him proudly. I think he came out very, very cute. He had some challenges, and there were some moments while I was making him that I'm like, oh, this is going to be an epic, epic fail. And I even had one point where I was like, I'm gonna give up on this little guy altogether. But I am so glad that I didn't, because in the end, he really did come out very, very cute. And I hope that you guys, even though this was a little challenging and our crafts today were a little bit harder than some that we've made, I hope that you're still inspired by some of these ideas and that you'll venture out to create your own. And if you do, please share them with me over on Instagram or send pictures through, I don't know if you can send pictures through YouTube. I'm actually really not sure. But I definitely know that you can share them with me over on Instagram. All you have to do is share it and then tag me. Because I do love to see what y'all are working on. I'm always inspired by you guys so much, and so I hope that you'll share some of your projects that you're working on for the holidays with me as well. All right, friends, that is going to wrap up today's video. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for spending time with me today. I so enjoy your company. I love having you here, and I love sharing projects with all of you. I am looking so forward to next week. We are going to start decorating for Christmas. We're going to deck the halls of my entire house, not just the halls, the entire house. And I am really, really, really excited. So I hope to see y'all again next week. Until then, y'all take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye.